Okay, Hariam everybody. We are seeing Bhagavad Gita chapter 16. Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 is the chapter on Devasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. It talks about Devi Sampat, which is divine qualities, and Asuri Sampat, which I refused to put an English translation to. As you would have seen over the past few weeks, what word can you use to define Asuri Sampat? You will find translators forced to use words like demonic vices or qualities. But really, does demonic capture what Asuri Sampat is? When you hear the word demonic, you think, okay, that's not me. But the qualities that are being described are part of our mind. So Asuri Sampat is just the opposite of Devi Sampat. Now, actually, not if you look at it, what is going on is it is not just Asuri Sampat that is being described, but a combination of Asuri and Rakshasi Sampat. We use those two words interchangeably a lot of the time, most of the time, because they are interchangeable. But our tradition is so amazing that it actually distinguishes between asuras and rakshasas, right? What exactly is the difference? Well, there's a slight theoretical difference. A rakshasa is one whose every action brings destruction to other people. And because you're part of people, it brings destruction to themselves also. Because you can't bring destruction to other people without bringing destruction to your own self. Ravana is the classic example of that. An asura is somebody who is not aiming to bring destruction to other people. They're thinking about themselves. So an asura is one who is selfish and who ends up taking more than they give, right? So because of that, because in chapter 3, Bhagavan describes how we're part of a cycle of parasparam bhavayantaha, where you're taking and you're giving. Like that's the way the universe works, right? So when someone is taking more and giving less, they become out of sync with the universe. They become out of harmony. They become out of tune with society, with the world. And therefore, they end up destroying the harmony in society. And I think it was here I was talking about it. When we follow dharma, we are keeping a balance in this universe, you know? But when we engage in adharma, it breaks the balance. And selfishness comes under adharma, you know? So even though you'll have everyone in society supposed to be working towards mutual prosperity, progress of society, the asura or someone with asuri sampat is thinking about themselves. And as a result, they end up working to the detriment of society, even though they're not intentionally trying to cause harm to other people. Because selfishness destroys. It is like, everybody is singing in chorus, and then you have one person who usually has the loudest mic, and they're totally off key, and they are the ones who have no clue that they're off key. You know, I I don't sing. I'm not a singer, but sometimes we have to chorus Swamiji when there's nobody else, right? So I need to listen to Swamiji's harmonium to get the correct tune. And sometimes you go to mandirs where Swamiji's playing his harmonium, and then you have people in the audience who have their own harmoniums, and they have a mic on their harmonium, and they're also playing what Swamiji is singing. And so now you're sitting close to the people who are playing harmonium over there, and I can't hear Swamiji's harmonium anymore. So there's no way for me to judge what tune I should be singing at. And during satsang, we don't talk, we don't communicate with each other. But one day, Dave actually had to poke me, and he wrote on his phone, "You're off key." I was like, oh my God. what happens when you're not in tune with everyone else is everyone starkly feels the in out of syncness, so, and I mean that's not a word, but you get the point. An asura is somebody who is thinking selfishly, who is thinking about their own materialistic gains, and as a result they become out of sync with the world, and they end up destroying the world too. So this is why we use these two words interchangeably, because if somebody is bringing destruction, thinking about their own selves, the world is impacted. And if someone is thinking about destroying the world, well, they're part of the world, so they're also impacted, right? But they do have different connotations in Sanskrit. So the point to remember is any little thing that brings pain to us and or to others, any negative little thing, is what asuras and rakshasas do, and that is really what defines asuri and rakshasi sampat. And in this chapter, Bhagavan is not separating and saying this is Devi sampat, this is asuri sampat, this is rakshasi sampat. He's clubbed asuri and rakshasi sampat together because of how intertwined they are. So now we have reached verse number 12. So we will pick up right there. Sharanya, will you chant with me? Asha pasha shater baddhaha
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः
kama krodha parayanaha
कामक्रोधपरायणाः
ihante kama bhogartham
ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम्
अन्यायेनार्थ sanchayan.
अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्
Asha, Pasha, Shatehi, Baddhaha. These people are bound by hundreds of ropes. Hundreds means actually countless because Shatehi, right? Hundreds, countless ropes. What ropes? Ropes of Asha, ropes of desire, ropes of hopes. That's a nicer way to say it. Sounds nice, right? Meaning a hope that there will be more joy in the next stage. You all would have heard that thing, I was dying my whole life and I forgot how to live, right? An interesting thing, everyone thinks, okay, in my next stage or in the next phase of life, I will be more happy when I do this or when I get this or when I go there or when I have that. But when we're thinking about being happy in the next stage, are we not going to be older when we are in that next stage? You're not going to be younger, you're going to be older, right? Now, who is happier, a child or an adult? You look around. You generally find that children are happier than adults, but somehow we feel when I get older, I go to the next stage, older by a day, older by a year, whatever. I feel I'm going to be happier. It's so ironic. I was thinking, I think that the joy that the children feel, well, one is that they have less desires because, the other is they have less worries, which is what brings trouble to us, but they also live in the present. And so they have the joy of the present, which we don't have. Right? Now we also can have the joy of the present, but our joy of present is stolen away by the fire of desires. And desire is such an interesting thing because it implies that I am not happy now. And it implies that only when I get something, I will be happy. So I have made my happiness conditional on the future, right? And we don't live in the future. I mean, some people will disagree and say, no, what are you talking about? This is the future. This is more future than Back to the Future. But you can only ever live in the present. So when you're living in the present, but you're saying your happiness is going to be in the future, then you are destined to not be happy, right? Asha, pasha, we're bound by hopes of being happy in the future. Now, someone will say, well, is hope not a good thing, like ambition? But Bhagavan is specifically referring here to what he called in chapter 9 as mogha asha, false hope. False hope is the problem. False hope is like expecting expecting salt to give sweetness. You put salt in there and you're like, but why isn't it sweet yet? Well, you can put the whole bottle of salt and you're not going to get any sweet in that thing that you're making. So it's good to have ambitions of using our talents and bringing them out in the world and making our contribution and hoping to get peace and prosperity and developing purity of mind and all of those things. But false hopes is what Bhagavan is cautioning us against, meaning hope that the world will give me joy, hope that people will give me joy, hope that circumstances changing will give me joy. That is what is being talked about, right? And these hopes are called ropes because they bind. They bind us. They prevent us from being happy here and now. Then he says, these people also for them, kama krodha parayanaha. The highest thing for them in life is kama and krodha. Because kama is desire. We just talked about how they have endless desires. And if kama is not fulfilled, Bhagavan described in chapter 2, it becomes krodha. Now, of the desires that we have, what percentage actually gets fulfilled? Call a number. Raise your hand if that number that you chose is more than 50%. Less than 50%. Less than 40%. No, raise your hand. I want to see. Less than 30%. Less than 20%. Less than 10. Okay, interesting. Now, if less than 50% of your desires are being fulfilled, then you're having more than 50% of your desires metamorphosize into anger. So that is why the highest thing is kama and krodha. No one goes out saying, yeah, the highest thing for me in life is anger. But if less than half your desires are going to be fulfilled, then more than half the time you're going to have the result of anger, right? Even if, simple thing, like you see a parent, if a child comes in the way of their desire, right? I wanted to do something and then my child ended up doing something stupid and then I didn't have time to do what I wanted because I had to fix what mess they made, right? Now, if you see that other people's children don't do things like that, well, then that instead of becoming angry, that will just metamorphosize into something like jealousy. Your child is so good. What happened to mine? or, or if you're trying to be a good parent, or you are a good parent, then that thing will turn into depression. But what am I doing wrong with this child? And so it may not be anger, but it will metamorphosize into some other thing that brings trouble to our life. So kama is the magnet and krodha is the opposite pole of the magnet, which has to come. You know how children go through a certain phase of life where they're like magnets to their parents, especially their moms, I think. That, right? Kama is the magnet and krodha is the thing that has to come. And they're always proportionate, right? If you have a desire to finish your work quickly and go home, and then someone comes to talk to you about some extra work, well, at that time you will be more frustrated and more angry than if you had no desire to rush home for what you were going home to. When I was working soon after university, I had nothing to go home to. So I didn't mind staying at work till whatever time, right? You bring work, it doesn't give you any frustration. But the day you make plans with your friends and then someone asks you to stay late, well, then you're like, this job, they don't understand. They don't appreciate work-life balance. It wasn't so big back then, but it was still there. Anyways, Kama Krodha Parayanaha. Then Ihante Kama Bhogartam. So now because Kama is such an important thing in their life, they act to fulfill their desires, become workaholics. And because desires need money, Anyayena Artha Sanchayan. They act to get money by all unfair means also. This is the root of corruption. The question is, how can I get more by doing less? Actually, the question is, how can I get more? And it doesn't matter. And to them, it doesn't matter where the more comes from. They don't realize them getting more means others are getting less of their fair share. And, people think of examples like swindling money from a bank and all. But it doesn't have to be that extreme also. I heard an example of a purchasing manager in Walmart and a client. And this purchasing manager calls the client and says, "So where are we going for dinner today?" And brings all their friends and asks this client to take them to a really expensive restaurant and racks up a bill of like almost 15,000 US dollars in one night. Right? Now, this client who is taking out this purchasing manager, he knows that if I don't oblige, he's not going to buy from me anymore. And the purchasing manager knows that if this person stops listening to me, I'm just not going to buy from them. So they use their position to take advantage of somebody else. And by virtue of having the position of decision making, they somehow are able to take more than what they should be taking. Right? This is anyaya artha sanchaya. This is trying to get wealth by unfair means. We're very creative at trying to eke out extra wealth. It's so common, you go to work and you're like, well, they're not paying me enough. I'm going to steal stationery. It starts at that level. It goes on all the way. But this is the root of corruption. Right? And all of this reinforcement of desires hinges on lack of thinking. And a life of strong desires, what happens to our mind is what you see in a spoiled child out in the world. You know how when you take that spoiled child to Toys R Us and they want a toy and they're not allowed to get it, they will roll on the floor and they will scream the whole place down. They don't care. That is what happens to our mind when we have strong desires. The mind insists on fulfilling them no matter what, and it screams at us to fulfill them. This is part of Asari Sampat. Okay, let us see number 13. Idamadhyamaya labdham
इदमद्य लब्धम्
imam prapsye manoratham
इमं प्राप्स्ये मनोरथम्
idamastidamapi me
इदमस्तीदमपि मे
Bhavishyati punardhanam.
भविष्यति पुनर्धनम्.
Okay, now hear what these people have to say. Bhagavan is quoting them. He's continuing to quote them. Idam adya maya labdham. This has been achieved by me today. You can imagine a shelf of trophies, I have achieved this and this and this. Imam prapsye manoratham. And they have imaginations of how I am going to get this and I'm going to get that and I'm going to achieve this. Now, there's nothing wrong in getting things and achieving things and trying to achieve things, right? But what is being talked about is the endless string of desires which can never get fulfilled. That is the thing that is being talked about, because I fulfilled some, now I'm pursuing others. And in the whole string of trying to fulfill our desires, there's no space for our spiritual evolution. And when we pursue desires in forgetfulness of something higher, the desires become uncontrolled. We're only thinking about how many of them were fulfilled and how many were not fulfilled. So the focus shifts from duty and values to fulfillment of desires and enjoyment of that fulfillment. Right? So the solution, I mean, desires don't go in a day. So the solution is to try to replace pointless desires with better desires, with more noble desires. The word Bhagavan uses here is manoratha. Manoratha is like some kind of wish or fanciful imagination, right? But the word in Sanskrit is so beautiful. Like, if you get a chance in your life to study Sanskrit, you should study it, because the beauty that comes out in the language is unmatched. See this one word, manoratha. Manoratha literally means vehicle of the mind, right? Now, the mind sits on this imagination or this wish, this desire. It sits on it and it is swept away as a result. See that beautiful word, manoratha? Now you use you cannot find an English word to communicate that thing which the mind sits on and is swept away by, right? Manoratha. So they have countless manorathas, countless imaginations. I'm going to get this, I'm going to get that, right? Then they also say, idam asti idam api me. I also have this already. So they're counting how many of their desires have been fulfilled. And bhavishyati punardhanam. And again, I will have more and more and more money. So stock planning, business planning, time is money, we were talking about last week, right? So they have no time for anything except to convert that time which they have into more money. From the moment they wake up, there is no time to spare thinking about anything more fundamental in the universe. And as a result, such people measure other people also by their money worth, not by the worth of their values, right? And like I said last week, in our tradition, money is not looked down upon. Lakshmi Ma as well, right? Prosperity is not looked down upon. But what is being talked about is the focus being money. That is the Durgana being highlighted, where the end is money. So not the means, right? So when the end is money, then I'm ready to do whatever it is to get to that end. I will take whatever means to get there. But Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya tells in Bhaja Govindam, Yat labase nija karmopatam vittam tena vinodaya chittam. You should be happy and content with whatever you get by fair means. Anyways, this whole thing actually is driven by our perception of wealth and its importance, right? And wealth is not just cash. In the olden days, wealth was cows and other animals. I mean, you see wealth being described in terms of property and the number of animals you own. In today's day and age, wealth is number of followers. Wealth is number of views. In the spiritual field, wealth is number of disciples, right? You can have any measure of wealth. Whatever is considered important becomes wealth, right? Wealth of knowledge is also there. You hear people talking about their knowledge. That is its own whole thing. Okay, so this is the sentiment with which these people communicate. He continues. Let us see how he continues. Asau maya hata shatruhu
असौ मया हतः शत्रुः
हनिष्ये चापरानपि
हनिष्ये चापरानपि
ईश्वरोऽहमहं भोगी
ईश्वरोऽहमहं भोगी
सिद्धोऽहं बलवान् सुखी.
सिद्धोऽहं बलवान् सुखी.
See their tune, their tone. I think that is why what one of the things Bhagavan is trying to capture in these verses, the tone or the attitude with which these people speak. So it's not specifically the words, but the sentiment behind the words that is also supposed to let us think about our words, right? Asau maya hata shatruhu. This is my enemy, this my competitor. They were destroyed by me. I finished them. You know, how do you destroy people? Well, we don't go destroying people physically, right? We do it by, well, one is character assassination. That sounds dangerous, but the other way of saying it is gossip. The tool that aids character assassination is something that people love very much. Gossip. There's political assassination. Then there's market capture. You know, people want to destroy or eliminate their competitors by using tactics to drive them out of the market. Like, I watched a reel recently of one older uncle and a younger person next to each other selling watermelons. And so the the old man sees that people are coming and only buying from this young guy. So he looks out and he sees that that person is selling the watermelon for $5 and he's selling it for 10. So, oh sorry, for $15 and he's selling it for 20. So he takes the sign and he scratches that out and he says he's going to sell it for 10 now. So he puts a $10 sign. That young kid goes and buys all of his watermelons for $10, puts it on his side, and now changes his price to 25. Because now there's nothing else. You drive the person out of the market, even if it means selling at a loss so they go out of business, right? Once they're out of business, then you're ready to make money. Anyways, all of this Shastra, the tactics are there, right? But our Shastras tell us we're not supposed to think in terms of having enemies. And an enemy is just somebody that we want to see do less than us. Anyone we're jealous of, anyone we wish we were better than, anyone we compare ourselves to, that we want to become better than, right? For lack of a better word, that would fall under this sentiment. Then, Hanishye cha aparanapi. All my other enemies also, I will destroy them too. Meaning, don't mess with me. He doesn't realize the world isn't like that. Then they have the sentiment, Ishvara aham. I'm Ishvara. I'm God. Now, you may not walk around saying I'm God, but there's a feeling of I'm the ruler. I'm the boss. See, in Puranas, the Rakshasas had this thing, worship me instead. You say, Om Hiranyakashapave Namaha. Or and you don't say Vishnave Namaha, you say Hiranyakashapave Namaha, like that. You worship me. Don't you dare offer yajna to the rishis and to Bhagavan and all of that, right? Some of them even thought they were God, like Vasudeva, that fake Vasudeva, right? Now we may not have that, but because of someone's power, they have an expectation for other people to serve them, right? That same thing that Hiranyakashipu had of craving of attention, that is what it was. I should be the one who's the center of attention. Attention should be on me. Now you would think in this terms. How many people have this tendency? Attention should be on me. People should call me the right thing. People should know who I am. Someone walks into your workplace and they talk to you like an ordinary person, and you're like, do they not know I'm the boss here? Like, is that how they talk to bosses? The mind, they may not, you'll never say something like that, but the mind will start talking. Do they not know who I am? you know? And now, post-COVID, people have started to look at themselves constantly because during COVID, everyone was looking at themselves online, day in and day out, right? So now everyone thinks that everyone is looking at me. You know, that's why people don't like to turn on their videos. Oh my God, I don't look good, but nobody's looking at you. Influencers think like that. Normal people also think like this, right? No one could rule like me. No one is capable of doing it the way that I do. Man, you should hear aunties smack talk other aunties and the way they cook. Same thing. Did you see? She put salted butter in that. What? She didn't use ghee? I mean, come on. Smack talk. That is the sentiment of Aham Ishvarat. Not just thinking I'm Bhagavan, but I'm great. Aham Bhogi. I am the enjoyer of all my wealth, all my prosperity, all my power. So they have no desire to share. Then Siddhaha Aham. I am accomplished. I am fulfilled. I am perfect. They'll say, look at my car, look at my family, look at my followers, look at my property. They're saying all of that, but inside they feel empty. So there's an outside pretense and an inner hollowness. Then to cover that up, they say, I'm Balavan. I'm strong. I'm mighty. Like Ravana. When Hanumanji goes and speaks to him, Ravana's like, do you not know who I am? You think about your own life, How many times do you think, do they not know who I am? Do they not know who I am? Or they should know who I am. I want to tell them who I am. That thought is what Bhagavan is talking about. And then Aham Sukhi. I am happy. Bhagavan, thinking that I am happy is Asuri Sampat? Hello, no, 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 no. That doesn't sound right. What are you talking about? When you meet people and what is the word? Why? The word is not coming to me. When you meet somebody, you have to say, how are you? You have to greet them, and what is the correct response? Well, you go, as someone asks you, how are you? And you tell them, actually, things are not so good. They will never ask you, how are you again? Because the correct response to that common banter on the street is, oh, yeah, everything's good. I'm good. I'm perfect. I'm happy. Meanwhile, miserable inside. What is the opposite of Sukhi? Sukhi means happy. The opposite of Sukhi is Dukhi, right? Now, Swamiji has been talking profusely over the past few days, if you've been following, about how you cannot have only one side of the pairs of opposites. The pairs they're complementary pairs. They have to come together. So if somebody actually is happy and saying, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, as a result of things that they're getting and things that they're being propped up by in society, well, the pendulum is guaranteed to swing the other way, right? So this whole feeling of, okay, I'm sad, so I should go and look for some happiness, that wanting to feel happy like that is what is being talked about, one of the things, right? And you'll see people who feel depressed or sad, their friends will come to them and say, oh, come, let's go have ice cream. Come, let's watch a movie. What is that? That is trying to make the person go from dukhi to sukhi, right? It is not, in our tradition, the goal is not being sukhi. Bhagavan is trying to remind us the goal is not being sukhi, but it is transcending both sukha and dukkha. It is transcending both pairs of opposites. This kind of thing actually is supposed to make us think deeply about our life. In Ishavasya Upanishad, Bhagavan, the description being given is of people who go to Naraka. And he says they go to blinding darkness. Right? Then the description is of people who go to Swarga. And the description of people who go to Swarga is they fall into even more blinding darkness. That means that somehow when a person feels happiness as a result of fulfillment of desire, it blinds them from the necessity or the feeling of wanting to evolve and come out of it altogether. So it is blinding. It prevents us. When it's a simple thing, when somebody is happy, they don't go trying to evolve, right? So this is how the asuras live. Superficial happiness, and they keep going, happiness, sorrow, happiness, sorrow. And when they're happy, they feel like, no, everything's going to be okay. And they don't do anything as a result of that. Um, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya actually dramatizes this whole thing. Bhagavan is saying how these people are. He's like, look, let me tell you what else they say. They say all other people are parasites. They're a burden to society. I am the only good one here. I'm the Lord. Anyways, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya is really funny sometimes. Okay, let's chant the next verse. Adyoham bhijan adyo bhijanavaanasmi
आढ्योऽभिजनवानस्मि
konyosti sadrisho maya
कोऽन्योऽस्ति सदृशो मया
yakshe dasyami modishye
यक्ष्ये दास्यामि मोदिष्ये
ityajnana vimohitaha.
इत्यज्ञानविमोहिताः
Adyaha asmi. I'm rich, endowed with wealth. So there's a sentiment of flaunting wealth. Not being wealthy, but flaunting wealth, right? And again, I had said not just money, wealth of knowledge, wealth of education. There's even wealth of toys. Have you seen kids flaunt the toys that they have with other kids? Look what I got. Or when a teenager gets a new phone or a new data plan. What? When a teenager is given a data plan, their life changes. They no more have to go and look for a McDonald's to try to connect and, and hustle to beg people to hotspot them. And they tell their friends, my parents got me a data plan, And now they're the cool kid on the block because everyone wants their hotspot. And then in 2 days, they finish their family's data plan and then they get in trouble. Dioham, I'm wealthy. I have something. Look what I have. Abhi Janavan Asmi. I am of great birth. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, I am born into 7 generations of great people in my family. My family is so great. This reminded me of in Horton Hears a Who. I mean, if you've come to sleepovers and all at the ashram, you might have watched this movie with us. There's a wonderful, wonderful movie called Horton Hears a Who. And that, I can't remember. The mayor takes his son when he's trying to show him, he says, look at this parampara of ours. Look at our family. I am the mayor. Your grandfather was the mayor. Your great-grandfather was the mayor. Your greater than greatest grandfather was the mayor. Look, generations of greatness in our family. And what, you don't want to become mayor? What is wrong with you? Usually, they show this in movies when the person is not doing something to protect the family legacy. But this asari bhav is the person boasting about their family lineage, which they didn't do anything to get, but they do nothing to preserve it or contribute to it. They just talk about how great it is, right? And this extends to things like, my race is better than another's. My color is better than another's. By virtue of the place in which I'm born, I deserve to be treated better in society than you. The whole of slave trade would have been centered on this sentiment of superiority, isn't it? Right? Then, ko nyosti kaha anyaha asti sadrisho maya. Who else is there like me? Nobody else is there like me. Means he thinks he's the best. He thinks he's incomparable, right? And we have this sentiment. You please look, it is there in us, right? Where we think we're the best at work. Kids have this. They think they're the better sibling or the better student or the better whatever. Spouses think they're the better spouse. I saw I saw a picture of a man who said, I prayed so hard to Bhagavan for the right wife, and he gave me her, and so now I'm always wrong. Or something like that. But this thing, this feeling of who is there like me, it is the height of arrogance, actually. Right? That is the arrogance is being highlighted here. Then he says, Yakshe, I perform yajnas. Now see, you're going to see in the next couple of verses also how, when we'll see a little bit more, but Yakshe, I perform yajnas. Means I am going to do a yajna in such a way that people really understand what a yajna is supposed to be like. And I will show people yajna. They think they've been doing yajna. Let me show them what it actually is, like that. Dasyami, I will give dan. Means the way I give dan, nobody else can give dan. How? I will give dan, and I will make sure to take pictures, and I will make sure to post it online so that people see that I gave dan. Now, okay, hold on. Let me say this. Some people go and do that kind of thing and take pictures and post it online to inspire others. Maybe if they see this opportunity, they will also do it. But most people do it to show, right? So now you cannot tell what others' actions and intentions are. So please, when you see people posting dana that they're doing, you don't go judging them. This is for us to think about whether when we do dan, we're doing it with a desire for some kind of recognition and all of that, right? And when we analyze ourselves, remember, we have to analyze with integrity. It is not a bad thing to be born with these qualities. So to see that you have these qualities is not something you should feel bad about, like to the point where it prevents you from admitting you have it. What is bad is to die with them. Because you can't control what you came with, but you can control what you do with your life to evolve, right? So to acknowledge that a quality is there in me is actually a great thing, because the acknowledgement of the quality is itself the beginning of the removal of that quality. Like when you find a bag of rotting vegetables in the fridge that you didn't know were there, or someone in your house came and put a box of leftover Chinese food in the fridge, and it went all the way to the back, and they forgot about it, or they just didn't care enough. And 1 month later, you're like, what is this? And you open it and you regret opening it. Well, the moment that you discover that there's something in this fridge that I don't know, that may not be what I think it may be something old. Well, the acknowledgement that there is something there itself is the beginning of its removal, right? So it is not a bad thing to discover these qualities in us, but discovering of them should lead to removal of them, right? Then he says, Modashi, therefore I will enjoy. Means I will be glorified as a result of my dana. I will be glorified as a result of my yajna. So all of this is fattening the ego. It is like, when, I don't know if you all read Hansel and Gretel growing up. Yeah. Okay. You know how, is it the witch? Is she a witch? Whatever. The old lady who's going and fattening Hansel. So he thinks he's getting food, but actually it's to his detriment. So this kind of thought, I will enjoy and look at what I'm doing. It is all fattening the ego, and it is to our own detriment, right? Because now I'm looking to enjoy here, I'm looking to enjoy after, and I'm basing all of my actions on that. Thus, iti ajnana vimohitaha. They are totally deluded by ajnana. You think Ravana did yajna, Karna did dana, Indra is enjoying, and what is their fate? So this kind of, if I do this, I will be better off. No, Bhagavan is trying to show that being a religious person doesn't guarantee peace of mind. It doesn't guarantee moksha. It doesn't guarantee spiritual growth. It doesn't guarantee that you have Devi Sampat, because Devi Sampat is not about external actions, but inner disposition. And the inner disposition can be in anybody, right? In us too. We don't realize sometimes we're digging our own grave spiritually, right? Yesterday, Swamiji had gone for a radio interview, and the person interviewing him had said, Swamiji, you might be upset, but, at me, but actually, I don't go to the mandir on a Sunday. Like, I don't go to mandir regularly. But, you know, going to mandir regularly on a Sunday is not a sign of spirituality. It is not necessarily a sign of spirituality. Sorry, I should say it is not necessarily a sign of spirituality. Means the mere external action of going to mandir on Sunday does not guarantee that you have Devi Sampat. It does not guarantee that you're a good person. It doesn't guarantee any of that. That is why there is so much politics in these religious organizations, because being religious doesn't guarantee any of this, right? Anyways, all of these negativities are offshoots of ajnana. Ajnana, it means ignorance. And ignorance leads to delusion. I think I'm incomplete. That leads to a desire to be complete. And when there is a desire, well, the whole thing just reinforces itself, right? So the Mahatmas and the Shastras are there to help us to come out of these negativities that may already be there in us. But if, as a result of this ego, which is being described, if we have this asuri sampat of ego, we cannot benefit from all the knowledge of our tradition that is there. Okay, let us continue. Aneka chitta vibhrantaha
अनेकचित्तविभ्रान्ताः
मोहजाल समावृताः
मोहजालसमावृताः
प्रसक्ता कामभोगेषु
प्रसक्ताः कामभोगेषु
पतन्ति नरकेषु च.
पतन्ति नरकेषु च।
Aneka chitta vibhrantaha, deluded by innumerable fanciful thoughts, like I'm so great, I'm so good, all of these things, right? Countless, you just see our asuras in our Puranas, and they all have this, right? But leave the Puranas and come to life. In every field, you can think of somebody who has this attitude that I am so great. I will just call a field and you think in your mind. Think of a politician who thinks they're so great, but not. I see smiles. Everyone has that in their mind right there. A lawyer who thinks they're so great. A doctor who thinks they're so great. A teacher who thinks they're so great. A religious person who thinks they're so great. Everyone was able to think of at least one person. I didn't even give you 5 seconds, right? The point is, this can apply to anybody, including us. So the question we have to ask is, what the fanciful thoughts am I deluded by? Little things can make you feel great. You know, you have such a nice voice. Oh, thank you. Did you make your voice? Where did that voice come from? Or by association of who we are with, you know, we feel great. Oh, yeah, you know, I have Swamiji on speed dial. So what? Or where we live. We think we're great based on where we live, you know? Some people you tell, oh, you know, you live in Brampton? No, no, no. I don't live in Brampton. I live in Vaughan. They live on the border of both. I live in Vaughan. Or where our ashram is, it used to be called Django Town. Now it's called North Monrepo. So if someone says, oh, the ashram is in Django Town, no, no, no. It's in Monrepo. Because, you know, where I live, it determines how great I am. They're moha jala samavritaha, caught up in a web of their own delusion. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya says, here moha is referring to aviveka. Means you're not thinking what is right and wrong. And any aviveka, any lack of thinking is going to bring sorrow. Any lack of thinking. Even non-purposeful lack of thinking. For example, if you have an allergy to milk and you don't know, and you go on eating milky things, and you know, you every morning you drink a cup of milk because you have been taught that it is the healthy thing to do, well, that ignorance of your allergy is causing sorrow or not in the manifestation of health issues which you don't know. I don't understand why I'm sick. I'm eating so healthy. I'm taking care of my food so well. Well, ignorance of something is what is triggering the sorrow. So the question is, if there's sorrow in my life, I have to ask, where is there ignorance that is triggering this? You know, we're unaware of so many things. We are totally unaware of the effects of phones and computers on us. You know, when these things were coming around, everyone was thinking about the effect they're going to have on the eyes. You know, don't use it so much, your eyes will spoil. But no one was thinking about the effect on the mind. And today, those things have totally taken over our lives, right? Or people have ignorance that money will give happiness. But everybody here knows that the most important things money cannot buy. Can money buy peace? Can money buy health? Every doctor will tell you, you can be the richest person in the world, it cannot buy you health, right? So the most important things, can it buy you purity of mind? Well, imagine you could go to Costco and buy purity of mind in bulk. That would be amazing. There's samavritaha, they're totally taken over by this thing. Because when we don't think, the truth is veiled from us, right? And this is how moha is equated with ajnana. Now he says they're also prasakta kama bhogeshu. They are excessively attached to material wealth and pleasure. Extreme attachment, right? And because of this, he says they go on engaging in so much papa. You know, Swamiji told a joke of how someone took $2 to a casino a few days ago. You might have heard it. And they were having a good day. So they they put the $2 in some machine. I don't remember how the joke exactly goes. They go and they gamble their $2 and they get $20. Okay, so they're like, oh, okay. So they put their $20 and they get back $200. Oh, this is a good day. That $200 goes and it becomes 2,000. They invest it again, and that 2,000 becomes 200,000. Like that, they end up with $2 million. Okay. Now they're like, okay, let me go home. So they take this $2 million and they're walking out of the casino and they see a last machine. And they think, you know, I'm having a lucky streak. And they put the $2 million in the last machine and they lose it all. Then they go home and their wife asks, "Where were you? What happened?" And the answer is, "I lost $2 at the casino." Because I went with $2. The hope, we get lost in the hope that we will get to enjoy more and enjoy more and enjoy more, right? But this thing doesn't have to be money. We don't just lose money. We see what happens is, in a desire to enjoy material wealth and pleasure, we steal time from our family. We steal time from our duty when we engage in the pursuit of sense pleasure because it becomes an addiction. You tell me, have you not said one more game, one more reel, one more video, one more message, one more file at work, right? That one more is connected to excessive attachment to material wealth and pleasure. And if we are attached to material wealth and pleasure excessively, then even when wealth is generated, it will only be used to further our materialism. Like, see, computers were invented so we will have more time. Correct or wrong? I remember that phrase growing up. When these computers become better, we will have more time. The computers will do all our work. More time to do what? Well, more time to enjoy materialistic things. The only thing is that it backfired. Majorly backfired. Like, see, all the development in the medical field is for what? Is to prolong life. To do what? To enjoy more, isn't it? I've heard doctors telling people who just went through heart surgery, don't worry, in a couple of weeks you can drink again. So all of that effort to prolong our possibility of enjoying more and more, right? This means the whole thought in the mind is, what can I do so that I will have more time to enjoy? Bhagavan says, patanti narake ashucho. They fall into impure naraka. Naraka is translated as hell. Again, terrible translation. Naraka is a place of suffering. Right? Naraka is where we experience sorrow. So you will see our Shastras describe things like kumbipak, where you get fried in hot oil. And Vaitarani and all of this. But Naraka doesn't have to be a world after death because the immediate effects can be felt of all of this. And it doesn't have to be a world of poverty either, right? You see people who are in the midst of comforts that are going through depression and having thoughts of suicide because they're trapped in their bodies, they're trapped in their mind, and they cannot handle the sorrow in their life. And the sorrow is there because it's a life deprived of spirituality and values which bring peace to our life. That is what makes it a nara, right? So our world that we are born into is supposed to be a balance of both. But some people feel the positive more because of their spiritual qualities, and some people feel the negative more because of the lack of spiritual qualities. All these wonderful values that we saw in the beginning of this chapter. Okay, let me pause here and send you all for discussion. The discussion question for today is very simple. Well, for me, very simple to generate. I don't know, the answer may not be so simple. The question is, how does listening to this Asuri Sampath make you feel? Simple question. How does it make you feel? So give some thought to it as a group, 5 minutes, and then we'll come back. Okay. So I'm making 3 breakout rooms. Please accept the request.
Oh.